The Arizona Cardinals went 11-6 last year. They were defeated by the LA Rams in the wild card round of the NFL playoffs. And going into this season, I feel like a lot of people are very low on Arizona. And I understand why. Because when you look at how the 2021 NFL season ended for the Cardinals, it wasn't pretty. But let's not forget, at one point last season, the Arizona Cardinals were 7-0. And then they ended up suffering their first loss of the season to the hands of the Green Bay Packers. They also lost Kyler Murray for a couple of games. But even without Kyler Murray, this team still ended up winning a couple of games. They went 9-2. And then when Kyler Murray came back, they went 10-2. But after they got off to that 10-2 start, that's when things started to go south for the Arizona Cardinals. And they ended up limping into the postseason. They got a big win late against the Dallas Cowboys, but their final game of the year, they lost to the Seattle Seahawks, and then they ended up getting embarrassed by the eventual Super Bowl champions. And that goes to one of the biggest flaws that a lot of people point out when it comes to Cliff Kingsbury as a head coach, and that's the fact that his teams always get off to fast starts, but they don't finish strong. And Cliff Kingsbury also has some other flaws about him that many people point out, such as questionable play calling, bad clock management at times. But something that a lot of people don't bring up when it comes to Cliff Kingsbury are the results. And the results speak for themselves. Ever since Cliff Kingsbury has taken over as the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, this team has done nothing but improve under him every single season. So, yeah, Cliff Kingsbury does have some things that he can improve on. But the fact of the matter is that this team always takes steps forward under him every single season. And when you look at their offense this year, it's still going to be really good. A lot of people are concerned about their offensive line, but their offensive line isn't as bad as what you may think. The right side is where the majority of the concern lies, such as you don't really know how good your right guard and your right tackle play is going to be. But the left side is pretty good. At left guard, you're going to have Justin Pugh. Also, you have Rodney Hudson at center. Now, both Rodney Hudson and Justin Pugh are pretty much on their last leg when it comes to their NFL careers, but they're still able to produce at a pretty solid level considering their age. You also have left tackle DJ Humphries, who is coming off a career year, and he made his first ever Pro Bowl appearance in 2021. So I think the offensive line is pretty solid. The wide receiving core, you traded for Marquise Brown from the Baltimore Ravens. Once DeAndre Hopkins comes back from serving his suspension, this is going to be one of the better wide receiver duos in the NFL. And Marquise Brown is a really good number two. At times, he can be an okay number one option, but really Marquise Brown is more of a Robin versus being a Batman. You also have AJ Green, who also is pretty productive as well. And we can't forget about Rondell Moore and Zach Ertz. And at running back, you got James Conner, who also went to the Pro Bowl. We know what Kyler Murray can do when he's fully healthy. So offensively, you shouldn't be concerned if you are an Arizona Cardinals fan. Now, my best case scenario for the Cardinals this season is going to be 12-5. Now, I understand that some people are going to have concerns with the defense because, first of all, outside of Marcus Golden, where's the pass rush going to come from with the loss of Chandler Jones? Also, how great is your cornerback play going to be this year? Because they may have one of the worst cornerback groups in the whole entire NFL. Byron Murphy is pretty solid. You're hoping that Marco Wilson can develop going into his second season. But you do have Jalen Thompson and Budda Baker, who make up one of the best safety duos in the NFL. And I think that you should get pretty good linebacker play out of Isaiah Simmons and Xavier Collins. Now, the Arizona Cardinals, the reason why the ceiling for them is so high is because this isn't a team that needs to have a dominant defense to be able to win games. Arizona, their success this season is going to be dictated on how good this offense is going to be. And I think that as long as this offense continues to perform the way they had last season, they really shouldn't do that bad. And they should be able to outscore pretty much anybody who they match up against because they do have one of the more talented offenses in the NFL. Yes, their offensive line could improve. They could get younger, but overall, this is still an offense that can put up points with some of the best teams in the NFL. And really, all their defense just needs to be able to do is to get key stops and crucial moments of games, such as being able to get off the field late in the fourth quarter and third down situations, or being able to force takeaways. And I think for Arizona, as long as you have a top 18, even, top 17 defense, you should be okay because the heart and soul of this team is by how well they perform on offense. Their win-loss record is going to be it's probably going to be based on how well this offense is able to perform on a consistent basis. And also the fact that you look at this defense, they do have some promising young pass rushers who I like a lot, such as Cameron Thomas out of San Diego State. You also have Myjai Sanders out of Cincinnati. So maybe one of those rookie pass rushers can end up coming on and being that other pass rusher that they need outside of Marcus Golding. So my worst case scenario for the Arizona Cardinals is 6-11. So maybe the offensive line does end up not being all that great, and it ends up regressing compared to the play that they got last year. Maybe the defense continues to struggle, or even it's even worse compared to what it was last year due to the fact that you lost Chandler Jones, and now maybe people start double teaming Marcus Golden. And then your secondary, when you look at the cornerback position, is still a huge question mark because when you drafted Marco Wilson, you knew that if you started him, he was going to have a lot of growing pains because that's simply what comes with drafting a cornerback in the mid rounds of the NFL draft. You're pretty much looking at a safety who's going to take a couple of years to develop. So maybe Marco Wilson doesn't take that next step this year. Maybe he continues to struggle this season in 2022, and just you can't really find any answers at cornerback outside of Byron Murphy. So that also can hold them back as well. When you look at their schedule, Arizona has a pretty tough schedule. And even though I do feel like this offense is going to be able to take care of business on their behalf, a lot of these teams have some of the best offenses in the NFL, such as Kansas City, Las Vegas, the Rams, New Orleans, Minnesota. And if you can't get a consistent pass rush on the majority of these teams that they have to match up against, you're not going to be able to have a lot of success on defense because the name of the game is being able to slow down the passing game. And the number one key to slowing down a great passing attack is by being able to get consistent pressure on the quarterback. And that's something that I just strongly doubt that Arizona is going to be able to do. But despite Arizona having one of the toughest schedules in the NFL this year, I still think that they're going to end up having a winning record. And I have them at 9-8. The offense is going to be perfectly fine. I don't think the offense is going to struggle. The defense worries me, but I do think that as long as the offense does end up having the ball late in games, I still do think they should be able to come out on the winning side of things more times than not. This defense is going to cost them a good amount of games as well, but at the same time, I just think that when you look at Arizona, their success is going to be predicated on how efficient and how effective they're going to be on offense. And this offense has always looked pretty good under Cliff Kingsbury. Although the play calling is questionable at times, I think that this offense is going to at least be a top 12 unit this year. So I think that Arizona is good enough to be able to get to 9 wins, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they do end up going below 500. But I just think that since you have Kyler Murray, he's played at a pretty good level. I think you pretty much could consider him to be a top 10 quarterback. You also do have a good group of wide receivers. Your offensive line is decent. It's not the best offensive line, but it is, at least in my opinion, a top 16, top 17 unit in the league. I think that your linebacker play is going to be really good. good. Isaiah Simmons had a really productive season last year, and I think that Xavier Collins is going to have a pretty good year too. You got to remember that Xavier Collins didn't really get a lot of playing time last year. Arizona, for some reason, just doesn't like playing their rookie linebackers. So I think with him getting more playing time, I think he's going to be way better this year with more snaps, and he's going to have way more experience now that he has a year under his belt of learning the playbook, learning the defense, and getting acclimated to the speed of the NFL game. So 9-8 is my record prediction for the Arizona Cardinals going into the 2022 NFL season. Let me know your prediction for the Cardinals down in the comment section down below. And I appreciate you guys for listening to this episode of the JT Sports Podcast. Remember that every video that's uploaded on the channel is available in audio format on every single podcasting platform. Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast from, the JT Sports Podcast is available. And I appreciate you guys for listening to this episode.